Tom Reed, your Finance Committee Vice Chair, representing the city of South Pasadena. If we could, let's go around the room and introduce the other PSTA board members, starting with Brad.
Oh, hello, I'm Brad Miller. I'm the CEO of PSTA.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Josh Schulman, St. Petersburg.
Yeah, Jay Eggers, Pinellas County Commission.
Okay, thank you. Now's the time for public comment. Any members of the public who wish to speak? Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Going to approve the July 24, 2024, that's a mouthful. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes of the meeting?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Clearwater Ferry Service contract, our illustrious Al Burns, Director of Procurement. We'll go over the contract.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. Yes. The AV isn't working. I'm just putting a plug in.
You guys are really setting that up.
How ironic.
T-ball over here.
It's good, but it's not showing the price.
We haven't shipped these.
So let's try this again. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Finance Committee members. I'm Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. This morning, I'm bringing an action item to you to recommend approval of a 3-year plus 2 option year contract with Clearwater Ferry Services LLC. Total 5-year cost not to exceed $2,300,000. So normally I don't get up and I normally handle the procurement considerations, but I can tell you that staff, myself, Brad, and the entire team has been working diligently over the last couple of months to get this to this point where we can bring it to you today. The funding for this is $655,000 is an FDOT grant over 3 years. $655,000 over the course of the next 3 years have been secured. The match for that will come from some of our partnering agencies, the City of Clearwater, the City of Dunedin, and Brad and Debbie are going to be working next month to finalize those agreements. We are extremely confident that we're going to get that across the finish line. That's the reason we're coming to you today. The service plan is Thursday through Sunday hourly service to Clearwater Beach and Dunedin. The contractor that I'm bringing before you today has been providing this service in this space over the course of the last 10 years and has a lot of experience on here. And Ms. Patricia Rodriguez from Clearwater Ferry is on the line, just in case I get asked something that I'm not prepared to answer. The premium fare probably currently is $5. Currently, I think in discussions with Ms. Rodriguez and Clearwater Ferry, their cost is a little bit higher, but we're going to try to put it in line with what we're currently charging, and we're thinking that should be $5. But I think we're going to refine those numbers along with the planning group and the finance team before we actually start the service. This month in the local agreements with Clearwater, this month inside your package, you'll also see the interlocal agreements with the City of Clearwater and Dunedin for matching funds. Like I said earlier, Debbie and Brad, I believe, early September, have a meeting with the City of Clearwater to finalize those numbers. I'll get back kind of into my wheelhouse, which is the procurement considerations. And we released the procurement. Initially, there was discussions on maybe trying to do a sole source for this procurement. And Brad talked to me about that, and FDOT strongly recommended that we go out and we seek competition for this contract. And we did. We sincerely did. And I think, now that I'm going back in my memory, I think over 20-something companies downloaded the solicitation from our website. During the pre-proposal conference, I received a lot of questions from other people, from other providers of this type of service, from all over the country. I believe one company as far away from San Francisco, another one in Texas, that provides similar type services, attended the pre-proposal conference. and ask questions, and of course, we answer those questions in the form of an addendum. We released the proposal in early July, and unfortunately, on July 24th, we only received one proposal, and that was from Clearwater Ferry. The proposal was deemed responsive, and we had an evaluation committee. What we did not want to do is we did not want PSTA to be the only people that participated in the evaluation process for this contract. So I reached out to the city of Clearwater, and I'm pleased to let you know that we had a member from the city, I believe the director of Parks and Recreation from the city of Clearwater, sit in on the, as an evaluation committee member, as well as PSTA staff, which consisted of operations, primarily operations, planning, and the city of Clearwater personnel. Inside your packet, you'll see the evaluation criteria that was used, qualifications, the type of vessels. I will elaborate a little bit and say that the vessels are being provided by the city of Clearwater, along with the docks are being provided by the city of Clearwater, I have been having a slogan. I don't think it's appropriate that I say it in this public meeting, but I'm really excited, and there are things that I have learned from this maritime procurement, because this was the first time that I did this engagement. But we have vessel sustainability. She spoke about, or they spoke about their sustainability measures in their proposal, and hours of service. And finally, price was one of the components as well. That came up to 250, valued at 250 points. We did a responsibility check. There were insurance requirements that were in the solicitation. She provided us our certificate of insurance. I provided those to Ms. Diane Randall, our Director of Risk. We had discussions on that, and we ended up lowering this, the insurance requirements that we initially put in the solicitation, and made them more in line with the city of Clearwater's insurance requirements that they had previously. The fiscal impact of this, I spoke about that earlier. FDOT Service Development Grant and municipal subsidies. An interlocal agreement between PSTA and the cities of Clearwater and Dunedin is attached in inside your packet, as I indicated earlier. Mr. Chair, I'm extremely excited and extremely motivated. And once again, I just want to thank everybody at PSTA, James Bradford and his team, the finance team, the planning team. We all collaborated on this. And I'm pleased to bring you a two-part, an A and a B recommendation. Recommend approval of a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for ferry operations and related services with Clearwater Ferry Services, LLC, for a total contract amount not to exceed $2.3 million. Part B is recommend approval of an interlocal agreement with the cities of Clearwater and Dunedin to provide the operating funds needed for the ferry services. One thing that I would like to mention is if you look at the subsidies amount and the match, we're asking for a little bit more than what the subsidies and match are, but that's typical. What we do is we just like to have a little bit in contingency just in case. With that, or if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Al. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, just a couple. So, again, I always get a little bit confused with your 5-year, $2.3 million. So I'm assuming that means we're estimating at about $460,000 a year to operate the business.
Yes, sir.
The first 3 years, we're covered by the grant and the subsidies.
Correct.
And mostly all operating costs. The vendor has the capital piece to it.
You're absolutely correct. With 218,000 is the FDOT over the 3 years, and with the match that approximately 400 and something that you just indicated, that is secure, and that is for the operation. That is for the operational part of the ferry service, and the capital part, the vendor will cover. I just want to reemphasize that the ferry and the dock, that is by the city of Clearwater. Yes, sir.
So right now, we're really just signing a 3-year agreement. because we really don't have the funding for year 4 and 5.
You are absolutely correct. We just wanted to, instead of having after the 3 years, having to come back.
Understand?
Okay.
But we'll have to make sure that we have the funding source.
Yes, sir,
to move
before we.
forward. And the independence of the process seems strange that we had 24 down to 1. You felt pretty good that it was independent enough out there that folks said, well, it's a fait accompli. We're not going to compete with somebody who we know is going to get the business. Do you feel like it was pretty, you feel secure in the integrity of our process?
I feel, absolutely, I feel
Okay.
secure in the integrity of the process. I will say this, there's a part 2 that we're gonna be doing, that we're probably gonna try to do, and that's the Cross Bay Ferry. And I think a lot of the companies, and I think that's gonna be a more lucrative contract, and I think a lot of the companies kind of put their toe in the water and observed how this process went, and I expect that we'll get more robust competition when we do the next one.
Good point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Any more questions? Mr. Schulman?
Yep, thank you. And I love Commissioner Eggers. He and I had the exact same question about the number of actual respondents versus the number that pulled the application, but from a completely different perspective, right? He was asking about the integrity of the process. My wondering is, did we get feedback from any of those that pulled and didn't apply? So, because I start to wonder if these companies aren't willing to bid, are they saying we don't see that as really being a viable, possible, realistic alternative? Like, we can make a business out of this, right? So, same set of facts, completely different angle.
I'll be honest with you. A lot of times when we receive just one proposal or one bid, my office will go out and ask the vendor community, hey, was it procurement? Why didn't you bid? Or why didn't you submit on this proposal? And sir, due to personal reasons, I've been out of the office for like the last 2 weeks, and I just haven't done that. But I will, as a point, before the board meeting, I will reach out to the vendors that did participate, at minimum, that participated in the pre-proposal conference, and get their feedback on why they did not participate.
I think, I appreciate that, and I think in this case, especially given that this is a relatively new service, and how we're expanding things and what's going on, and our experience with it is new, it's helpful for our own education process to hear from those vendors that do this on the regular basis, to inform our decisions and help give us some of that institutional knowledge we may be lacking because this is new. So it's a way for us to learn, and they also may have decided, like you said, it was an opportunity to see how the process goes, but for this dollar amount, they're gonna wait to take a bite at the Cross Bay Ferry instead. So, I don't wanna draw a conclusion, but I'd like to learn from why they said, why they passed. And I know you said you brought in Clearwater. Has Dunedin looked at the proposal, the requirements? Like you said, the insurance levels were changed to match Clearwater. Have we talked to Dunedin that that aligns with what their expectations were? as well?
I have.
Okay.
We have talked to
Okay.
them. We shared the RFP with them. Yeah,
And then they seem positive about it.
yeah.
Is there any PSTA financial obligation for this, right? Or is it, how's that breaking?
PSPA offered to all the vendors one time $100,000 that we've had in our capital program for a while now, and I don't know if the Clearwater Ferry in their proposal outlined how if they would use that funds or not.
I don't remember. I know that they spoke on it, and I want to say that they plan on doing that to help equip their vehicles to make sure that they're ADA meet the ADA requirements. But I like to fact check that before I need to fact check that, but I'm 90% sure that that's what they wanted to use the $100,000 for.
Okay, and so from the operating side, this is completely getting picked up by FDOT, Clearwater, and Dunedin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Are we accounting for any staff hours that are going into that? I've read, so what is, other than potential, like being the contracting mechanism that the FDOT funds get through to the city, what, do we have an engagement at all?
Yeah, well, we have staff hours, and then, as this begins and the service goes, of course, we're going to have the same kind of contract oversight we do for the Jolly Trolley and the Looper and the other contract and TransDev, the other services that we oversee. I mean, James and his staff will, go out there, just, I think today is the exit interview. Just the last couple of days, we've had FDOT in here doing an audit of all of our operational activities, and they've gone over to our contractors. So, now that we're providing this FDOT grant, that we're responsible for their ensuring compliance by all of our contractors.
So there is a bit of an underlying cost, even though we're not hiring more employees to do that, it's already in there.
Correct. Correct.
Fantastic. And are we offering Flamingo Fare, like, for how people can pay for it?
To be determined, not on opening day, but we put in the RFP that they had to allow us to put the Flamingo readers on the boats, and so in the future that might be possible. And then so I think that is in the works. We're trying to, based on the bus replacements and having extra Flamingo
Right.
readers available, we could put those on the boats, and then you could tap your credit card, which I think would be a great addition for the ferry.
Well, I think it also helps riders understand that that ferry service is part of the overall transit system. When they can
Yeah,
use
me
the
too.
same
Me
method
too.
of paying regardless. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And just if I may, I remember at the pre-proposal conference, one of the outside companies, I think, maybe to your question about whether or not, why some of the folks didn't bid, they did ask questions, or one company asked whether or not, this is a little bit of a unique procurement in that the city of Clearwater has purchased a boat, or more than one boat, that they got an earmark from the state legislature, and then they purchased boats for the Clearwater Ferry, Inc. And so another vendor said, well, could we have those boats? And it's really, the answer is no, because that's an agreement between the city of Clearwater and this company. Yeah.
Okay.
So they did have an advantage in that their boats were paid for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Eggers, you had another question?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't level the playing field too well, because the capital investment's obviously pretty important. So it kind of gets to my question about how many vessels we are going to have. My understanding is that it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday service year-round. It seems to me like service, people, feet on boat, so to speak, would be a lot heavier certain times of the year versus other times. So what's the plan from an operational standpoint, and number of boats and that kind of thing? What's it look like?
Very good question, and I think I looked at that yesterday, and I got on a call with Ms. Rodriguez, and she's on here to help me out if I start to stumble. And I asked her, how many vessels or boats, as you said, are going to be used? And there's going to be one vessel for the Clearwater route and another vessel for the Dunedin route. So there'll be two vessels, one for Dunedin and one for Clearwater, year-round. I also asked a question as far as peak service levels, if I could use that term, and I'm not a planner, so the planning people don't get upset with me. But what I was told was that in the summer months, I said, is the ridership the same all year round? And she said, Al, in the summer months, our ridership goes up, and in the winter months, our ridership goes down, with the exception of spring break, there is a spike. Tricia, did I get that right?
Yes, can I be heard? Can I be heard?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a TDC meeting. I stepped out of it to be here today, so I apologize why my camera is not on. I'm in a corner of a room. So yes, to answer your question, Commissioner, the service that we're going to,
Oh,
Come on, Brad.
Tricia? You there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the question was just about the ridership levels, seasonality of the ridership levels, when it peaks and when it is at its lowest.
Give me just one second. Okay. So the question was with regard to, first let me answer the question with regard to loads.
The ridership levels throughout the year.
Yes, the ridership level throughout the year does increase, of course, during the summer months with peaks during Thanksgiving time, all the tourism times, essentially it peaks. I did send a full ridership report to both James and Alvin with regard to our last 8 years of service. So yes, we do have peak services, of course, the highest level of ridership, of course, in April and March and April during spring break. It continues to be higher in the summer months. It then drops down for the seasonal level of Clearwater Beach and our seasonality of weather and sunset times. And then, of course, we have a big peak in during around the holiday time, both Thanksgiving and Christmas time.
Thank you, Trish.
Any more questions?
With regard, to answer Commissioner Eggers, with regard to the number of vessels, we have 4 vessels that would be part of this initial operation. The vessels will be interchanged per our maintenance schedules according to the schedules and the needs and the increase in volume during those given months. For example, in the wintertime, we will maintain some of those vessels. So in other words, we do have backup vessels and operation vessels to operate more vessels during the spring break time, where we will have that 12-week of elevated service per the contract, per the RFP that was put out there. We're going to have 12 weeks of increased service during spring break time.
And is that, those operations are going to be Clearwater to Clearwater Beach, Dunedin to Clearwater Beach? Any connections from Dunedin to Clearwater?
Correct, there is a connection. The route, and we're calling it the blue route, it is the current blue route. It does connect from downtown, from Dunedin to downtown Clearwater to Clearwater Beach.
Good. That'll keep me from having to ride my bike. That's
Correct. You got to wait.
okay, awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to get a sense of that. And that'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to recommend approval of the contract? Before I get the motion, I need to clarify, do we need 2 motions for A and B, or just, okay?
Yeah, you can do one.
So do I have a motion to recommend approval of the contract?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
General Training Services Contract. Tamika White, Deputy Director of Talent Management, and Al Burns will review the task order contracts for training services. Hi, Tamika.
Hi, good morning,
Good morning.
Chair and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Tamika White. I'm the Deputy Director of Talent Management in our Human Resources Department. As you all know, in today's rapidly changing world, the success of any organization hinges on the strength and adaptability of its workforce. At PSTA, we're committed to investing in our people by offering comprehensive training services that support professional development at every level of the organization. As part of this commitment, we've issued an RFP and selected innovative vendors to provide training aligned with our PSTA University curriculum, covering key areas such as leadership and management development, executive and managerial coaching, customer service excellence, technology proficiency, and general business skills. We'll be continuing some existing partnerships, but we've also identified some great new vendors to partner with over the next couple of years who will facilitate these essential training services and help us elevate the capabilities of our employees. Many of these vendors are women-owned businesses or disadvantaged business enterprises, reflecting PSTA's commitment to a healthy workforce and community as outlined in our Sustainable Strategic Plan. We'll be partnering with the following training services providers for the following programs. For Leadership PSTA, we'll be working with Combined Expertise Incorporated, who we've been working with Dr. Phildra Swagger for the last 3 years of this program, and the students just absolutely love her. For our Leadership Retreat and Management Mastermind Workshop Series, we're going to be working with the Rose Group International. I'm really excited about this new partnership because they have really creative and innovative approaches towards leadership development, change management, and organizational culture. Our new Transit Operations Leadership Development Training is going to be with C. Robinson Associates, Inc. They are members of ACTA, and many of their training facilitators have tons of experience in the public transit industry, so we thought they would really be a great value add for PSTA. For our customer service training, we're going to be partnering with TransPro Consulting LLC, which you probably heard about. We're doing the voice of the customer survey with them, so that will be a seamless integration with the training for our customer service representatives. And for all other ad hoc technology and business skills training, we will continue our longstanding partnership with St. Petersburg College. The proposed training will be delivered through various formats, including customized workshops, in-person sessions, virtual training, and e-learning solutions. By investing in these ongoing learning opportunities, we not only enhance employee engagement and employee retention by showing a clear commitment to career growth, but we also boost the morale and satisfaction of our employees and foster a culture of continuous improvement in the organization. I'd really like to thank the procurement team for successfully administering this RFP for us. And at this time, I turn it over to Al Burns, who will give you additional details about the solicitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamika.
Thank you, Tamika. I really appreciate that. Mr. Chair, Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director again. On March 19th, we released the RFP for journal training services. And on May 7th, we received 21 proposals, a lot. However, 4 of those proposals were deemed non-responsive. So the evaluation team evaluated 17 proposals. The evaluation committee consisted of what was across the organization. We had members from the PMO department, a member from the PMO department that participated as an evaluation committee member. A member from operations, that has majority of the workforce participated in the evaluation process, and I just want to commend them on the outstanding job. In your packet, there's an outline of the criterion that was used. And on July 12th, we had our pre-proposal conference, our evaluation committee with the notice posted and everything appropriately. And I wanted to, since we had so many, 17, I established a competitive range. And what the competitive range means is anybody that stands a chance on getting an award. So if someone scored maybe 300 points out of 1,000, we didn't even really have, I didn't think they had a reasonable chance to be awarded a contract. So that reduced the number down to 8. So at the evaluation committee meeting, we discussed 8 proposals. And those 8 proposals are outlined in your packet. Mr. Chair, I just want, and Finance Committee members, I just want to clarify one thing. No one is guaranteed that they will get work out of these contracts that are being issued. I want to emphasize that again. No one is being guaranteed any work out of the contracts that are being issued. If Ms. White and her department feel that they have a need for, let's say, leadership PSTA, that's when they will engage the appropriate firm, and by issuing a task order to that firm, as you said, task order contract, they will issue a task order to that firm for, let's say, leadership PSTA for the year. We did a responsibility check on everyone, and it was determined that the C. Robinson's Inc. and all of the contractors that we're bringing forward are ready, willing, and able, and have passed all the background and everything like that. The fiscal impact of this comes out of operating funds And Ms. White has a line for training. She has an actual training budget where that will fund this, and this is programmed every year. The recommendation I bring before you is recommend approval of a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for general training services with C. Robinson Associates Incorporated, Combined Expertise, Inc., Rose Group International, St. Petersburg College, and TransPro Consulting for a contract amount not to exceed $376,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. Just as a point of clarification, that $376,000 is over the course of the 5 years. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that's 376 combined for all of the contracts, not 376 per.
Correct, sir.
Excellent.
Yeah, each one's broken down, right?
Yeah, so, actually, I did have, a question about the scoring summary. I'm trying to understand what the last column refers to.
So the last column is column 81, and that refers to price.
Okay, so the column before that, E6, says price.
Correct.
So-
The column that says section 6, price, 200 maximum points, that is the point value, for price. When you look at section E1, then you can see the actual value for, the actual price tag that's associated with it.
Okay, so that is just the dollar amount versus the point amount.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I see that, okay, now I see that the the numbers correspond to a certain extent. I wasn't looking at both columns. Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
No more questions.
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, so just making sure, again, you narrowed it down to 8 vendors that you were, did all 8 vendors apply for all of the different services? And you kind of handpicked the ones in each area that fit the bill? Because you have obviously different contracts by different, the requirements that we have.
That is an excellent question, Commissioner Eggers. And the answer is that all contractors did not bid on everything. So there was a decision point that I made during the evaluation process. And I felt that we had 5 different categories. And if a company was strong in, let's say, customer service, and they only submitted, and I'm just using this as a hypothetical, if a company only submitted for customer service because that's what they specialize in, I thought that was a good thing, and not to hold that against them. And we evaluated their proposal strictly on their customer service and didn't deduct because they didn't bid on the other ones.
Okay. All right. Looking like about 75,000 a year for the budget. Is that comparable to what we have now?
Yes,
And how much of that 75 a year do you use typically?
all of it.
You're using all of it, okay. And we're not raising the overall budgeted amount.
No.
Okay, so so that little matrix of services that were bid on was pretty unique. I mean, it was kind of a checkerboard kind of thing, because not everybody, because not it, like combined, it didn't get all the business. You know.
I would tell you, you're absolutely correct. Rather than going out for 5 separate solicitations, I tried for streamlining purposes, I consolidated everything and went out with one big solicitation. Just limited resources and the amount of time to go through 5 different RFPs.
So no one company won the bid for all of it?
No, sir.
But multiple companies won bids for part of it?
Correct. And one thing as a point of interest, and I know Ms. White said, some of these companies are locally owned businesses here in St. Pete in the Tampa Bay area.
And then I might add, the one company that was for the Leadership PSDA program we were previously paying under St. Pete College, and then she went out on her own.
Right.
And so it is lower cost.
It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's lower cost for that piece of it.
That piece of it.
Well, and you mentioned that we have female-owned businesses involved here, too.
Yes, we do.
Any more questions? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the contract?
Contracts.
Contracts, sorry. It's one contract for multiple task orders, right?
Each,
Separate contract.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the contract?
I'll make a motion.
Contracts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Al,
Thank you.
Tamika. Now, the green screen, audiovisual equipment replacement project.
Move approval?
Is it Kessia? Am I pronouncing it Kessia?
You can only go
Yes.
down from here now.
Well, you know what Kessie's gonna do? She's gonna present the contract with the new AV equipment. See how it goes on this existing stuff.
Good morning, Finance Committee members. My name is Kessia Harris. I am the Director of Information Technology, and I am here today to speak about replacement of the AV system. We all know it's needed. I bring before you an action item to recommend approval of a one-year contract with 4-year options for the AV equipment replacement with MCS of Tampa Inc. for a total contract amount not to exceed $615,000. So, as I mentioned, the AV equipment, it's pretty old. It's been in use over the past 9 years. However, the recommended useful life is actually 5 years. We use the equipment on a constant basis for staff meetings, ERG events, trainings, interdepartmental meetings, a whole host of meetings. I just put in the slide a few of the pieces of equipment that is a part of the AV system that you guys use as well. And we have gotten reports, we have experienced ourselves glitches in the system that includes feedback from the microphones, variation in the volume of sound, poor sound quality, grainy video quality, lag between the Granicus and YouTube live meeting, inconsistency in the voting system. However, with the new AV equipment, we expect to have meter cabling, warranty on the equipment, and most importantly, additional technical and operational support with the new equipment. As a part of this project, we also want to include the paging system, which our operations team uses on a constant basis as well. The system that they currently use, it's obsolete, it's not supported anymore, so we have to replace it and integrate it with our radio project. So I bring before you again the AV system to have it replaced with MCS of Tampa for a contract amount not to exceed $615,000. And now I turn it over to Al Burns to provide you more information on the solicitation process.
Thank you very much. Al?
thank you, Kessia. This project here, there was a lot of coordination. And one of the things that and the reason that there was a lot of coordination, there were several site visits that were done to our facility. And the contractor that we're bringing before you this morning, MCS of Tampa, I think that if I were to count, I know they visited our facility at least 5 times and did thorough walkthroughs of the facility. What that translates to me is that their pricing, they stand behind their pricing, and I have affirmed that with them through negotiations. In mid-May, we issued a PS, a solicitation in compliance with all our processes and procedures. And on July 17th, we received 3 proposals. One from APG, MCS of Tampa, and Visual Sound. I would say all proposals were very good proposals, but I would tell you that MCS of Tampa proposal just really stood out. In your package, you'll see the evaluation criteria that was used. And at the end of July, we had an evaluation committee to evaluate and rank the proposals. Once again, we like to do things from an enterprise level here at PSTA, and we have various people that participated in the solicitation process. Of course, we had members from the Information Technology Department. We had members from our Superintendent of Facilities attended because they're gonna be doing a lot of work up in the ceiling and with our infrastructure. And we even had Miss Rachel, as she deals with this equipment on a routine basis, every time we have a meeting, I felt it was very, very important that she participated, and I want to thank you, Rachel and Missy, for their time. In your package, you'll see how the proposals were ranked. And we did a responsibility check on MCS of Tampa, and they have the capacity to perform the work. Additionally, MCS of Tampa, they're a Tampa, Central Florida-based company. They've done a lot of work with other municipalities in our region, as far as doing their boardrooms, etc. So they have a lot of experience in the governmental sector. The fiscal impact of this: it'll be grant funded for the initial installation. Hang on a second. It's grant funded for the initial installation and other conference rooms with ongoing operational funding for the maintenance and ongoing support. So let me break that down a little bit. We have secured funding for the boardroom downstairs, the auditorium, which comes up to a value of approximately $280,000. Additionally, the approximately $9,000 for the paging system that Kessia spoke about earlier. So $280,000 for the boardroom downstairs and the auditorium, $9,000 for the paging system that Kessia talked about, and then another approximately $71,000 for other microphones and equipment that's needed for the boardroom. That is being funded by the grant. The other conference rooms, we have a total of 8 other conference rooms, and they average about $11,000 a piece. Some of the conference rooms are the planning conference room, the executive conference room, the marketing conference room, the maintenance conference room, PMO conference rooms. All of those are being charged the same price of approximately $11,000. However, they are not part of the initial purchase. We have, over the course of the next 5 years, we could purchase those other conference rooms. So, for example, right now this year, we do the boardroom and the auditorium. And then Kessia works with the FP&A team and Debbie and says, hey, I would really like to do the executive conference room next year. And then Debbie might be able to build in that additional $11,000 for that conference room, and it would be added to their budget. And once the board approves the next year's budget, then we're able to issue a task order or a purchase order for the executive conference room. Hopefully that made sense.
Well, I'm up to 450,
Yeah.
so I'm still shy of the 615.
So the recommendation I bring before you this morning is recommend approval of a 1-year contract with 4 one-year options for AV equipment replacement project services with MCS of Tampa for a total contract amount not to exceed $615,000. If there's any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Al.
Who wants to go first?
Commissioner Cox.
There you go.
Thank you, Al, for the presentation and for the upgrade, hopefully, There's a particular concern here too, in this room with the acoustics. Because if we go next week to, look this up in the archives and try to listen to it's horrible, and it's been that way for years. Now, is there a mechanism in this also where that will be maintained like on a periodic basis? Well,
So that is, when Commissioner Edgar said that the monies didn't weren't quite there, there are additional lines in there. We have maintenance and ongoing support for year 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we do have ongoing maintenance support where they'll come in and they'll maintain the equipment. During the first year after the boardroom and the auditorium are installed, for about the first 6 months, you're gonna see MCS personnel here that are gonna kind of hold our hands in making sure that we know how to adjust the equipment and fine tune the equipment during that. In their initial price, they priced that out for all 4 or 5 years. And Kessie and I, through negotiations, we said, hey, we think that's a little top heavy. We think her staff is smart enough, where after maybe about the first 6 months, we won't need that ongoing support. However, they said that they were willing to be on call and here at a moment's notice, either in person or by phone, if we do run into technical difficulties. Hopefully that answers your question.
Commissioner Eggers?
I
You have
was
another
looking,
one?
I was looking at
Oh.
Josh, because his question looked like where I was going, so.
All right, then, Commissioner Schulman.
Yeah, you'll probably put it better though. So, so the difference between the 450 or whatnot, the initial capital outlay that's part of this contract, and the full amount, that is for ongoing operating and/or potential additional capital use for these different conference rooms?
Exactly.
Okay, so if we decide to change the equipment in one of the conference rooms, and it's $11,000, that's part of this
It's in
contract?
6,
Yes, sir.
18.
Okay, so all of those have already been included in here, just not necessarily approved yet to be done?
Yeah, grant
That is
funded.
Okay,
And-
so and we're waiting for grant funding potentially
Right,
to
right.
do that, or we absolutely need to, and we just have to pay for it ourselves. Okay, I think that kind of helps. How many of those conference rooms are there?
There are 8.
Okay, so about $90,000 of that difference. And so then when we evaluated the different providers, were they all providing the same equipment?
That's a good question, and that was one that was
That's
brought up.
bound to happen.
It was not apples to apples. The providers did not provide all the same like equipment. If that would have been the case, then we had the capabilities in staff to be able to spec out the equipment, we would have turned this into an IFB where it would have been strictly low price. But each one had, it was important to the project manager in Kessia that they talk about their approach on how they're going to do it, how they plan on doing cost-saving measures. So it was not like an apples to apples, bottom line, low bid win situation.
So, but do we have a say, or do we have an understanding of what the quality of the equipment that we're getting?
I'll
in
defer
that?
to Kessia on that one.
Morning chairs and committee board member. Yes, there's no difference between like with the equipment. It's basically we can't tell like the difference until we get it. But like the MCS is the one that offers like with all like the information correct. Like it's
So what we're trying to say is, we did speak to the vendors on, we did give a list of equipment that we recommended, and we wanted feedback from them as well. So we did participate in that.
Okay.
So is it, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
we finished?
I'll put a pause on it, it's fine.
So is it safe to say that the equipment it could vary from room to room, application to application, and MCS provide the best overall solution for each application equipment-wise?
Yes.
correct.
Yes, so we also asked, again, like Al mentioned, what are the cost-saving measures, because we did, although the equipment is old, we did try to find what it is that absolutely needs to be changed and what it is that can be kept, and the different vendors gave their suggestions, their professional suggestions.
If I may. Yeah, so is there a warranty on the equipment?
Yes,
I imagine it has different warranties for different pieces of equipment, but are we generally thinking, right, so if it has I'm guessing the new equipment has an expected lifetime of 5 years like the old equipment, that it's covered for some significant duration of that, or?
Are you talking about the old equipment?
No, I'm talking about the stuff that we're replacing,
Mhm.
right? That, I guess my concern is that the equipment that's being put in while meeting specifications isn't necessarily, and I'm not saying that it is, but it could be a lower quality. And if it's lower quality and it fails in a year or two, are we protected from that? Since we're handing over the sourcing of that to the company that we're contracting with.
If I could, Mr. Chair, good question, Commissioner. On all of our solicitations that we do that involves commodities, there is warranty language inside the solicitation. And the reason that we do that is because they can come out and service it if something's wrong, not a problem. But if a piece of equipment fails, then they're gonna say, oh, well, we can't service it, and you're gonna need to buy this $5,000 part right here for it. My PDF is not working, but when I look inside the solicitation, I'm looking for Exhibit D. There is specific warranty information, and I'll just go down here. We have a warranty, and the warranty that we have is, I want to say normally we have, it's gonna be 180 days after system acceptance, and I believe there's like a 2-year warranty, but I don't want to knee-jerk it, but I know that we do have warranty provisions inside the contract.
And I imagine whatever warranties happen to come with the actual equipment themselves from the manufacturer would transfer as well.
But isn't the 618 total price is like, I thought you told me this before, that it was like 450, or there was like 180 or something like operating expense over the 5 years, and that's not really warranty, but that's service. You're paying for the service from this company to keep this stuff working.
You're absolutely correct, Brad. In the pricing schedule, there are, we have, like, year one maintenance and ongoing support is 36,000, year 2 is 40,000, 44, and 48,000. So there is ongoing maintenance and support, and they'll come in every year, and they'll for lack of better terms, do preventative maintenance on the equipment to make sure that it's still working in compliance, if I'm not mistaken.
So on the so have they haven't yet provided a list of the equipment that they're gonna use, because they still need to do the.
No, sir, they have.
They have?
They have,
Okay.
and that's been totally vetted.
Okay, and so we're happy with the equipment?
Yes.
Provide the underlying manufacturer of the equipment?
Yes, we worked with them as well. We provided them a list of equipment that we currently use and recommendations, and they provided their professional opinions as well.
Okay.
Or suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any more questions?
Yeah, one question.
Commissioner
So I see that we had talked about a 1 year with 4 one-year renewals, so we have 5 years. And you just list the 36, 40, 44, and 48, which is 4 years. That total dollars and the previous capital actually comes to the 615. So you're missing a 5th year of operating?
No, the first year
First year.
is included.
First year.
So when I say year one for maintenance.
Okay, well, I only saw 4 numbers, so year 1, you don't have any cost?
Correct.
I got you, okay, thank you, appreciate
Any
it.
more questions? Okay, thank you, everybody. Do I have a motion to recommend approval of the contract?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Al.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you, Chris.
Replacement of buses. Our final action item is for the purchase of some buses. Brad Miller and Henry Lukasik, Director of Maintenance, will take us through these items, or this item, rather.
Okay. Good morning. So the reason that I am presenting this, which is kind of somewhat rare, luckily, I don't know anything about the IT and why it looks green. It's because I think this is a really sort of thoughtful thing that the staff has done with this recommendation before the Finance Committee today and then the board next week to go ahead and put the order in for the replacement buses that we just got notice of the funding a month ago from the U.S. Department of Transportation. If you were at the board meeting last couple weeks ago, you will saw we played a little video clip of a press conference that the Assistant Secretary of Transportation had about the fact that they had just awarded PSTA a $27.8 million grant from this this federal program called the Low-No Bus Program. It's called the Low-No Bus Program because it can only fund low, which essentially means hybrid electric buses, or no emission buses, which are electric buses, or hydrogen buses. Congress has actually earmarked the amount of money that the DOT has to allocate in the low category versus the no category. It's very specific. Anyway, PSTA submitted an application and was very grateful to, I was very grateful to get a call from a congressperson, which is usually a positive thing, and that's how the DOT does it. They tell their congresspeople to call. And we just got this awarded last month. The recommendation today to you is to use those funding and place the order now for 12 electric buses and 9 slightly smaller 35-foot hybrid electric buses. This is a little bit different. The reason I highlighted the 9 is because our original application was for 12 electric buses and 4 hybrid electric buses and charging equipment for the additional charging infrastructure equipment for the electric buses. But over the last month, after we got the announcement, the award announcement, I asked Henry and Debbie and Al to really take a look, because this is a real opportunity for us. And the recommendation is that we would not go forth. We do not need the charging equipment, and so instead of putting money into the charging equipment, we would increase the number of buses we would get. The total cost there for these buses is 26.4, a little bit less than the grant because there's additional funding for workforce development that is part of the grant as well. That would be part of that.
Brian, a quick question.
Yeah.
Who makes the hybrid electrics? What company?
Gillig.
Okay,
Gillig makes
okay,
it.
good, thank you.
And Henry will talk a little bit about Gillig. The reason I thought that we should really take a hard look at our fleet was because for a very long time, and those of you who've been on the board for a while probably have heard us talk about this before, PSDA has a fleet of 208 buses total, large buses. 57 of those are 2006 and 2007 models. And all those were purchased back then by our predecessors, thanks to earmarks from that great man, U.S. Congressman Bill Young, who rose to a very powerful position in Congress of the chair of the Appropriations Committee in the House. The #1 earmarker is the chair of the Appropriations Committee, and all those blue buses that you see driving around Pinellas County, you should thank him, because those were all purchased with earmarks that he got PSA back in the day. And I'm sure they were very happy with that back then, but they bought 56 buses in a very short period of time with those funding, and so I put this little picture of this snake eating a large meal, and it takes a while. So we've seen this number of buses aging out, and they're now 18, 19 years old. They're past their useful life. So this opportunity and this grant award that we just heard about last month is a real opportunity to finally get that sort of large number of vehicles off the road and sustainably sort of even out our fleet replacement schedule. So I asked Henry to really take a look at it and see if we could eke out more buses. And I'm grateful to him for coming up with this. I've got these couple of recommendations. One, we would not need a charger for every electric bus that we have in the fleet. You can charge more than one bus a night with the same charger. And so we don't need to spend more money at this time on more charging equipment. We can convert that into hybrid electric buses. The second thing is it's very important for PSDA not to probably have a universal fleet of electric buses or universal of any kind of bus, because it is a great benefit, especially where we live with hurricanes and things like that, to have a diversified fleet. You just never know. Sometimes we have problems getting diesel fuel. Sometimes we might have problems with electricity. And so I think it is good for us to have a diversified fleet moving out into the future. And then Henry talked to Gillig, and we had a unique opportunity. If we order the buses now, even though they're not going to arrive for probably 2 years or 18 months, we can save millions of dollars by locking in the price now. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about we can get some maybe more advantageous technology on the hybrids if we order them now. So I'll pass it off to Henry to tell you about that.
Thank you.
Morning, Henry.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. I'm Henry Lukasik, the Director of Maintenance. So, before I get into this, for this year's round of low-no funding, there really was three themes that the FTA was looking for. One, partnership with other agencies, which we did in the state of Florida. Joint procurements, and that's important for the first bullet point. And trying to, quote, standardize buses as much as we can, so that the manufacturers can run off multiple buses and there could be some economies of scale rather than producing one particular bus for each agency. So that was the theme. Our application was not the only application that was awarded funding. Some of the partner agencies we decided to team with, who also received awards, were Escambia, Broward, Gainesville, Orlando, and Tallahassee, and each of those did a combination of electric buses and hybrid electric buses. So there was quite a bit of funding that came to the state of Florida as a whole. The first bullet point satisfies one of the themes of the low-no funding, which was utilizing joint procurements. Contracts already existing in place that had standardized payment terms that could be used, or standardized specifications. For all electric buses, we are going to use PSTA's own Al Burns solicited state RFP and contracts for electric buses, along with the other partner agencies. In this case, the state of Washington contract would be used for the hybrid electric buses. The second bullet, and Brad mentioned it, is paying upfront for our hybrid powertrains, and we would provide a performance bond for that. So what that actually means is one of the allowable expenses under the FTA low-no was milestone payments. So whenever you can buy something at today's prices, and what impacts today's prices in the bus market is known as the Producer Price Index. It's just an inflation gauge that comes out of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I didn't do that. So, because the lead time on buses today is a little bit longer than when it was when I was talking here 11 years ago. It used to be 12 months lead time. It's now 18 to 24 months lead time. Is that if you have the ability to pre-purchase, okay, components, and in this case, the hybrid electric systems, at today's prices in advance of the physical bus rolling down the line, that you're gonna save money. So that's what we're requesting recommendation to do. It is an allowable expense. Now, Gillig would purchase those hybrid components, today's money, and in turn, Gillig would issue us a performance bond. We would bond the purchases. They would store the components out at the manufacturing plant until the buses go into production, which we expect would be possibly late 2025 for a 2026 delivery of the bus itself. Now, should anything happen during that time period, let's just say the bus doesn't get built, whatever, okay? That's what that bond will cover, is what we pay to Gillig. The alternative to that is, because these components are tangible assets, they exist, you can go out and look at them, is that 41 of our existing 93 hybrid bus fleet utilize these same components, which we would probably need at some future date to keep our existing hybrids going. As Brad mentioned, we have a request to amend our original application. As he said, originally it was for 12 electrics, 4 hybrids, and 12 chargers. We sent in a request to FTA to amend that request to eliminate the 12 chargers, refocus the funding to purchase more hybrid buses. We've answered a few of their questions. We've been working on that since the end of July, and haven't had any follow-up questions as of yet, so right now we're just waiting for their concurrence to do so. And as to repeat the action item, recommend approval of the 12 electric 40-foot buses, 9 35-foot hybrid electric, again subject to FTA concurrence, for a total not to exceed $26.42 million, utilizing PSTA's recently awarded low-no grant from the FTA.
You maybe mentioned about the fleet age reduction. And
Oh,
what
yes,
this
yes.
will do.
Yes, thank you, Brad. So, obviously, we're very thankful for what Congressman Young did for PSTA back in the early 2000s. It has taken a while to overcome, I call it a mountain. Brad utilizes the picture of the snake eating something big. With this, in addition to other things that grant awards we've received over the years, Volkswagen settlement money, bus and bus facilities, that insurmountable mountain, that snake, can finally come to an end. And when I say that, presently, the average age of PSTA's bus fleet is 11.85 years. By 2027, with the purchase of these buses, the average age will decrease down to 6.83 years, and that has not been seen at PSTA since 2008. Now, the insurmountable mountain or hump of buses, again, by purchasing the extra additional hybrid buses, there will not be a mountain, okay, ever again. Well, that is maybe until 2064, if you're still here. Okay. We will be able to normalize the purchase of buses in incoming years all the way out to 2040, more of what we've been used to over the years of anywhere between 8 to 13. It's generally a good number. But there are no more big mountains in the 30-year time horizon for the purchase of buses.
Okay. Before I open it to questions, I have one for you. When we prepay for these hybrid powertrains, you know, I've got like a lot full of cranes that we've bought. They're sitting there out in the elements. But the warranty doesn't start on this crane until we mount it on a truck. So is this warranty for us gonna start when they're put in the buses, or is the warranty starting while they're sitting on the ground waiting to go in a bus?
Warranty starts in the bus business upon date of acceptance. So when it gets here, and our expected in-service date. So bus could get here, let's just say in the month of July, and we don't expect it to go into service until the month of August.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
when the
Henry.
warranty starts.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Commissioner Cox?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Henry, for the presentation. The 35-foot hybrid, we have no 35, ours are all 40s, right?
We do have a fleet of 35-footers
Oh, they are?
that are part of the 2006, 2007 fleet. We try and keep a mix of 35s and 40s in our fleet.
Okay, so they're comparable. You know, for example, sometimes we need to run a hybrid on Sunrunner, you know.
The buses on Sunrunner are hybrids.
Well, yeah, I understand.
We're hoping to do that less.
What's that?
We're hoping to do that less now that we've gotten additional Sunrunner buses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, I understand that, yeah, they are hybrid also, but they're configured differently, you know,
Yeah.
than the 35-foot ones are. Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions? Commissioner Eggers?
Just real quick, Debbie, maybe you can answer, the flow of funds that we got, the 26 million, how does that actually work?
Once we take acceptance of the buses, and there's an invoice that we get from Gillig, we go ahead, we pay the invoice, I seek then reimbursement on that, like, immediately.
Right.
And we get it within a day.
Yeah, but between now and then, the announcement by the Secretary of Transportation of these awards was just a verbal, and then they go through a process over the next year where we'll apply. We have to apply for a grant. Fort Pinellas, I think, has already approved it. It has to be in the TIP, and then FTA will probably approve it maybe this winter or early spring, so that then we have the ability to draw those funds down when the buses arrive.
Okay. So it's all reimbursement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and what we have now is what they call pre-award authority, so that we can go ahead and actually place the order before the next increase in the cost comes in. So we save a lot of money,
Yeah.
like a lot.
Gillig obviously is very used to this type of
They are.
process.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the purchase of the buses?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Okay, on to reports, monthly financial report, Julie Lucas, Director of Accounting. Come on down.
Good morning, I'm Julie Lucas, Director of
Hi, Julie.
Accounting. Looking at our June financials,
Yeah.
we finished with a 3.7 million net deficit, which was 1.2 million favorable to the budgeted deficit. Revenue is 232,000 favorable to budget, driven by property tax revenue and investment income. Expenses are 964,000 unfavorable to budget, driven by salaries, fringes, and insurance expense. Turning to the June year-to-date, we finished with a 30.1 million net surplus, of which 6.7 million was favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue is 2.8 million favorable to budget, with investment income and federal grants driving that. Expenses are 3.9 million favorable to budget, with fringe benefits, insurance expense, and services expense carrying that favorable variance. And I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Any questions? Mr. Schulman?
Thank you. And this is just I guess, a vernacular question. It may have been this way for a while, but so if an expense is under budget, it is more than we expected or less than we expected? Okay, so in insurance expense, I'm looking at the June numbers, show a negative $404,000 expense, which is 139% under budget. I'm guessing there was some sort of accounting, change of accounts for
There
that,
was,
or-
we had a long-term claimant whose file was closed, and that's 300,000 of that 400,000 reduction right there.
Okay. And so overall, a lot of these numbers are under budget, like utilities expense. and even the fringe benefits. Is there anything, what, I mean, it's great, but is that, what's going on? How do I get part of that, those expense savings that you guys are getting?
Part of it, if you take a look, like on the fringe benefits, and it's something that we've taken a deep dive into this year, and it's part of your timing differences that you asked us to look at.
Mhm.
And we're gonna do a better job of budgeting for that. And those are for accrued vacation wages. And so you see a big lump that happens in an expense entry in September, and then we also have a true-up in January. So we haven't, quite honestly, done the best job in how we've allocated the budget for that. So that's why that's a big piece of that timing difference.
Mhm.
Other than that, between Brad and myself, we just are mean and nasty and make people tighten their belts, and, people are afraid to ask to buy anything anymore, quite honestly.
That's not been my experience. How many contracts do we just, no, just, I get that, no.
Buses.
I mean, I just think, and I appreciate that, it is remarkable, so even looking at the timing difference block that you have, I mean, we're $4 million ahead in surplus at this point than
Right,
budget,
and,
that's.
Yeah, we may have some actuarial things that are
Right.
non-cash related that come in September that we don't necessarily account for in the budget as well. But I am really proud of the team, because the more we can kind of find a better way of doing things, more efficient way of doing things. Al beats up on the vendor community significantly to get the prices lower, because he's got a child still in college and blames it on me that, it's a whole thing. But no, I really am proud of that. We are one of the most cost-effective agencies in the country, and we continue to find ways to improve, such as with the electric and the hybrid bus purchases that we're doing. It was a very difficult decision years ago for the board to make, to kind of start shifting in our propulsion power. And what we're seeing now is, obviously, the fuel market is still volatile, so we're kind of containing that in a better way. We'll still have, in 2 more years, I'll be buying a lot less diesel. But by the same token, on the electric side, to give you an example, this year I'm paying 32 cents a kilowatt hour. Next year, with the additional buses, I'll be paying 16 cents a kilowatt hour. Then we become a super user, and I'll be going down to 2 cents per kilowatt hour. So we're looking to the future with some of the decisions that we've made that will really help to reduce our operating costs as we move forward in a less volatile environment.
And then as we add solar, we're gonna be using less kilowatt hours. Right, okay, so,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that, and I just think it's worth noting publicly, as opposed to just kind of saying the reports look good, that PSTA is doing a bang-up job of making it work. And as a citizen, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, Bill.
And just, thank you very much, Commissioner, for those comments. The biggest red number on the year-to-date number that, I'm just adding this as sort of I don't know if it's really Debbie and Julie say it's a true expense, but you see the miscellaneous expenses is 64% over budget due to write-off of obsolete tickets, 506,000 over budget. What that is on January 1st, 2024, we got rid of the mag stripe bus passes and went 100% to the Flamingo accounts that people have on plastic cards or in the app. And from an accounting perspective, the old bus passes, when a person bought a $35 mag stripe bus pass at a customer service window or at CVS, PSDA accounted for that we collected that $35, even if they put that bus pass in their sock drawer and they never used it. We got that $35. Now that we've moved to Flamingo, and it's this concept of you put your money on your wallet, that $35 we don't count. we don't count until you actually use it to ride the bus. And so, and all of the tickets we had in inventory, all of the bus passes, they're writing them off. Did we actually lose any money? No. I mean, I don't feel like we, as a non-accountant, or as a person that didn't get a very good grade in accounting, we didn't lose any. We did not lose 506,000, or we're not 506,000 over budget. It's just we wrote off those mag stripes.
Debbie, do you care to comment?
That's
non-accounting
statement.
statement.
We have vetted this with our auditors, a second auditor.
Yes.
It was quite a discussion.
They've done way too
Because
much
they got
analysis of this
cards
for my benefit.
returned to us that somebody paid for, so we basically had to give them a credit back. We had to write this off as obsolete inventory that
So-
we now had.
Did we give a credit back? So did that money move to Flamingo Fairs then for those, or?
Well, when people use it, right?
No, well, these were ones that we got back from vendors.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got these back from vendors when we made the switch. So this was stock that they had. I mean, CVS, they literally came with boxes, and we were sitting there counting the cards and everything, so that we could account for what needed to be written off.
So when CVS got those, did they paid us for them, or they paid us as they sold them?
You know what, because this happened so long
They paid-
ago,
they paid
the
us.
details are not as fresh in my head.
They
Okay.
pay for it up front.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
they bought them all, and then they were returning them
Oh,
all.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving into the
Anyway.
quarterly reports. Debbie, our CFO.
This has been your
will-
accounting lesson for the day.
Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, I know, I'm right behind you.
It was a great deal back then.
All right,
Good seeing you, David.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you. See you next week.
See ya.
all right, quarterly reports.
Quarterly report.
Very exciting. So I'm going to talk on a little bit of a few of the reports. You've got a lot of reports in there, your capital reports, which have all of your capital projects that we've been working on over the course of the year and where we stand. On the fuel report, we are currently under budget on the diesel fuel. As I've mentioned in previous meetings, we were anxiously awaiting for HART to do the new procurement on their end, because we go off of their contract for fuel for the next 5 years. And we now have that in place, and we're looking to lock in fuel hopefully this week, which looks very good for us. And so I'm not as concerned as I was maybe a week or two when fuel was up. I watch it every day. And we will be locking in shortly on the fuel going forward for fiscal '25. Because fiscal '25, just to kind of give you a spoiler alert, we don't know when all the buses are coming in, the electric buses. We're given a schedule and it changes daily. So I normally lock in about 2/3 of the buses. I'm going to be locking in a little bit less at about 60%. We always have the room to lock in more of the fuel.
Yeah.
Because we're just not sure of the delivery, and we don't want to be paying for something we can't use. On the investment report, we have investments of $70.3 million. And the report was changed this quarter by Julie and her team to be a little bit more user-friendly, because Commissioner Schulman brought up a great comment at the last quarterly meeting. He's like, oh my goodness, you've got things in at 2.5% versus higher rates that you see in our CDs. So when you look at the investment report, we've put it into categories of our money market, which is basically what we're using to pay bills on a regular basis, certificate of deposits for things that we know we won't need. And then we have our different accounts that our money comes into, and then we immediately pull it out and put it into other things. When you look at that, we can see that one of our accounts has a significant amount of money in it. That's where the property taxes come in, usually towards the end of the month. And this report is as of a moment in time. But because Commissioner Schulman is brilliant, and he makes us stop and think, we are going to be investing that money. We're still being very conservative, I admit, but investing that money a lot quicker than we have been, or being prepared to invest it based on an annual cash flow basis. So Commissioner Schulman, I'll be sending you this report, even though you won't be on the board, for all the quarters going forward until you tell me to stop.
You can stop.
But thank you so much for helping us to redesign a report and to also maybe take a look at things in a little bit different way. Now, the reserve report is in there, which ties back to the 70.3 million. And I know there's been some questions in the past on reserves. And to me, reserves fall into two categories. Reserves fall into, I've got an insurance policy in case something goes wrong, or it's a savings account for future things. So when we look to guard against risks such as catastrophic events or instability in revenues, et cetera, we have different reserves that fit in that category, like our operating reserve. We currently have, pursuant to board policy, 2 months of operating reserves. A lot of entities that are in natural disaster zones have more than 2 months. Reason being is, even though if a natural disaster happens, you're not going to see a reimbursement from FEMA for 3 or 4 years. That's the reimbursement time on that.
Did you say years?
Years.
Okay, just making sure I heard that right.
You did hear that correctly. We have insurance reserves as well fall into that category. We also have reserves that I will say are like savings account, and those address needs such as our capital needs where you're not going to necessarily have revenues over expenses giving you enough money in 1 year to cover those expenses. So like this year we had a budgeted surplus of around $27,000. That is not enough to cover expenses, so you have to use it almost like a savings account. So in your packet, you've got the list of reserves, which we divide up into contractually restricted, so there's a contract out there that says we must set aside the money, legally restricted, such as the VW settlement funds that we have to use for the bus purchases in the future, and then restricted pursuant to the board, such as the operating reserve, the insurance reserve, and then the capital reserves. And these reserves are important because when you look at the bottom line on this, we say funds remaining to pay outstanding liabilities. That's what we would be expecting to pay the remainder of this fiscal year. That's lovely, but guess what? We've got October and November in fiscal '25 where I'm incurring expenses, but I don't have my property tax yet. So I'm going to be robbing Peter to pay Paul until those come in. So it's important to have these savings accounts or reserve accounts to hold us over.
Can I ask a question with that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Debbie. So, looking at that breakdown of reserve amounts in different categories, it shows the current balance. But do we have a target balance that we're all, right? So, you know, looking at, I see the 2 months of operating reserves from the board's discretion. It shows a little over $19 million. What I don't know is that 2 million short of where it should be? Is that right exactly where it should be?
It's where it should be. What we do is we true it up right before the beginning or right after the beginning of the fiscal year based on the budget that the board has approved.
Okay, so it's trued up once a year then?
It's trued up once a year. It accumulates interest, and as we unfortunately know, expenses increase, not decrease usually. So we will be truing that up to 2 months of the fiscal '25 budget.
Okay, so this number was where what we expected to need in reserves basically this time last year?
Right.
Okay.
It's a little bit more, but just based on interest income.
Okay.
So, let's see, what other, we have, I'm playing the part of Trish Collins, who is at APTA this week, presenting on how well PSTA is doing with retaining employees and attracting employees. And she's addressing that to hundreds, maybe thousands of people, I don't know. So I'm very proud of her for doing that. So on the health insurance update, we have 3 plans here at PSTA. We have our base plan, which the majority of people are in. And we're at a point where we're getting closer. We have 286 employees in that plan. And we now, on our high deductible plan, are coming right up behind it at 204. And our buy-up plan is the most richest plan, most expensive plan to be employees with 92 people in it. What we have seen this year is that our insurance claims are extremely high. We're seeing an increase in, of course, pharmaceuticals that have gone up about 17% over last year. We've seen medical go up about 14%. The insurance companies would love to see what they call a loss ratio of around 82% is the sweet spot for them. Anything more than that, they're really losing money. And when you take a look at the chart that's on there, it says reserve accumulations. At the very right, on the right-hand side, it says total plans. Right now, they're losing about $1.7, $1.8 million year to date. So when we saw our insurance go up for next year by the 7%, this is why our claims have gone up significantly since last year. You know, we try to take out any catastrophic claims as much as possible, but about 25% of our claims are catastrophic and the very high-level claims, which the insurance companies have to look at.
And those are mostly in the base plan? Or-
And those, they're across the plans, but mostly, I would say, in the base plan, few in the, and also the buy-up plan.
I would imagine, and are we seeing, I know, I see, it's okay if I ask a question there.
You're already there.
Yeah, well, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So, the number of employees from year to year in the high deductible plan are still 204. But I wonder, are those the same 204? Right, Are we seeing people switch plans for different coverage, for discretionary treatment, and then moving back to, you know?
I don't think so. What we're seeing is as new employees come on board and they're given the menu of which ones to choose, our new employees that are coming on are choosing the high deductible plan.
Okay. And is there any, I didn't look through all the pages, but on the health insurance side, is there any information on how the utilization for the health savings accounts are going as far as contributions by employees?
I will get that information for you. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Deb?
Total employees. in the-
Debbie, does that conclude your report?
That concludes it.
All right, thank you. Any committee members have any other business to bring before the committee? All right. Our next meeting is September 18th at 9 a.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Nice
Good job,
job, Tom.
Hey, you know, the script is pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, but it takes a certain personality to be able to really deliver it.
Yes. Thank you.
And I feel like